Welcome back to RTO Pro training for today, and today we're going to talk about how to make a payment part 2. And this is going to be a sort of a rambling video about the strange things that can happen and you need to watch out for as you take payments. So again, this is our main screen. Look for your blue $sign, click that. And today we're going to look at a client, Barrios. Angel Barrios, and I've selected her because she has some very interesting things going on. Now, say this gal walked in and wanted to make a payment. You come down here and say, well, you owe us $71.42. And if you did that, dear Angel would freak out because that is really not what she owes today. And so we're going to discuss this very closely. Now, Angel has 3 different contracts. Only one of these contracts is in fact due today. This one has been paid up till 9/29, so she is not due on that contract until September. This one she is not due on until the 30th of June, and this one she is late on. So in fact, for Angel to be up to date today, the only thing she should have to pay is $56.80. So whenever you see multiple contracts, don't just go down here and assume that that's what the customer is going to pay. You've got to take a minute and look over what is due and what is not due. Then explain to a customer you only have one contract that's due today. You are 2 days late. 2 days overdue. That's where that $2 comes from. It's $1 a day for being overdue. And so when you add the 2 weeks, when you add the 1 week of that payment plus the back rent that she owed, and I'll explain that in a moment, plus the $2, you get to $56.80. Now, you have to learn your customers. What I would do with Angel is just take her payment today to get her caught up. If she has a little bit of extra money, I try to knock that out. But she is probably only figuring that she's going to come in and need to spend $29.29 plus tax. But that's not really what it is because of the back rent. But that's okay. As long as she's staying roughly on schedule, I'm okay with the normal payment, and this will wash out at the end of her contract. So again, the only contract she has due today is this one. When I'm doing this, it is June 11th. So she's 2 days late on this contract. These others she's not. She doesn't need to be charged for these. This amount comes from that rent plus this back rent plus this $2 equals this. Now, how does back rent appear on the screen? Back rent is kind of complicated. Imagine that one day Angel came in and she said, well, I have a little bit of extra money, so I'm going to give you $35 or whatever. What the machine will do is it will take off the $29.29, then it will go to the next week and say I've got maybe $5 and some odd cents of that, and I'm going to charge the rest to back rent. So even though she's not behind in her payment, she does show back rent. Now if you're on the ball, the next week she shows up, she should only have to pay $25.51, and that'll get her back on track. But most of us aren't watching that closely to see that that happens. But that is how back rent does become part of the equation. So watch for making sure on multiple contracts that you're only dealing with the one that is due that day. If customers don't get the back rent thing, just don't worry about it. Just get what is due that day here, the $29.29. Get your late fees and move on. In which case what I do is add $29.29 plus 2, and in this I would put $31.29. I'd come down here and put 0. I'd come down here and put 0. and there we get your $31.29. What that will effectively do is pay for 1 week of her rent and knock out her late charges, would move her due date to 6/16, and she would be effectively paid up for that day. And that's fine. Some customers get back rent, some don't. Some of us get back rent and some of us don't. I'm not really worried about it as long as it stays under $100 or so. But obviously, if a customer can't understand what happened, you do want to explain that to them and maybe ask them, in this case, for $35 a week until they get that cleaned up. So that's one thing that can happen that you got to watch out for with your payments. Don't go, again, let's just get out of here. Come back and say you owe us $71.42. Take a look first, make sure you're only dealing with due contracts. The other thing you want to watch out for is her terms. She has all her payments weekly, which is fine, and that's what you want to do. You want to get them weekly, and then you want to get them on the same day. These are all 6/9. Let's take a look at our calendar. 6/9, 6/30 are all a Monday, and I'm willing to say if we go to September 29th, we're going to see that as a Monday as well. So that's good. All these are on the same date. They're all due at the same time. If we're right on schedule with Angel, she would pay $38.66 come September when all these are due at one time. But until then, you're going to have to pick and choose between each one of those and not just ask her for that amount. So that's the first problem you got to watch out for. The other thing that happens with credit cards. Let's just move forward here. Say you want to do this by credit card. Let's assume MasterCard, and here we would press enter. And again, I don't want to process cards on this computer. If I pressed enter, a screen would come up. You'd put in the numbers. What you must watch out for is you must get that there was some kind of confirmation code at the end of the transaction. If you do not get a confirmation code, it did not go through. Sometimes a computer will ask you strange questions. If you're not sure how to ask them, immediately get a manager. But if you do not get a confirmation code, it was not sent through and there is no money being transferred to us. And make sure if you do not get a confirmation code that you go over how to fix that transaction with your manager, which involves basically looking into the history of the client. So those are two things you got to watch out for in payments. Make sure you get all this stuff worked out. Make sure you get a confirmation code for your credit card transaction. And I think that ought to do it for today. Thanks very much. Hope that was helpful.